Yo, what is good, people? Welcome back to another episode of the F1 2022 My Team series here on the channel. Today is an exciting one. It's the Silverstone Grand Prix, which is our home race as a team and as a driver, of course, being from Britain. It's the British Grand Prix, yeah, so getting into Silverstone today. I've not really had luck with Silverstone on my team on F1 for the last 3 years. I never do well here, but yeah, we've got a good car this season. You can see the vehicle comparison chart there. We've got 3 upgrades to come through very soon. We're tied with Red Bull pretty much in the standings there, and we are 4 points behind the Red Bull man Max Verstappen in the driver's standings. So if we have a good result here, we could overtake Max Verstappen, put ourselves P1 in the driver's standings. That would be absolutely crazy to say in season 2. I don't know if they've changed this year the rate at which you get resource points or the development of the car. Side note, we just upgrade our marketing department there to get that to level 1, because sometimes when you sign a teammate, they require like certain specs in your facilities, and we're looking to get a new teammate. I can't lie, spoiler alert. But yeah, very wet day here in Silverstone getting into qualifying. But back to what I was saying, I don't know if they've changed the development of the car in this year's game, because last year it took us 4 seasons to win the championship and to battle for a championship. But this year's game, you know, we're in season 2 and we've got a good enough car to fight for wins already. So it's crazy to me. Or maybe it's just the way I'm developing it, because we've put no points into durability. That's probably why we don't look as high on the leaderboard as we are meant to be in the vehicle chart, because we've put no points into fuel development and no points into durability. So that's costing us a bit of, durability, or not durability, a bit of points on the leaderboard. But we don't care, we're just upgrading the stuff that gives us performance. Speaking of performance, we're currently at P13 here in this qualifying session. So what am I talking about? Oh yeah, this car's amazing, we've got a race-winning car underneath us. Maybe it's not the car, it's just me being bad in the wet. We're improving on our time now here very nicely. 5 tenths up, 6 tenths up now, climbing to 7 tenths in the delta there. Trying to improve on this lap. Charles Leclerc in P12, he's struggling as well in this very wet qualifying session. I believe the race was in the dry as well, so setup was an issue. Do we go with a powerful wet setup to get a good qualifying session, or do we go with a dry setup to have a better chance in the race? I believe we went for a drier setup and just put a bit more front wing on, because obviously you can change front wing after parc fermé conditions are applied. We go purple through sector 2, so maybe we do have a good car underneath us. Absolutely smashing Maggott and Beckett's. That was our strong point for sure in this whole race weekend in Silverstone. Maggott and Beckett's, we smashed a massive oversteer coming through what I think is Stowe, that corner, is it? Not too sure, don't quote me on that. But massive oversteer. Mick Schumacher struggling with some oversteer there. You saw his rear end kick out coming through the chicane. Luckily, he doesn't really get in our way, Mick Schumacher, as we cross the line 2.3 seconds quicker than our previous lap and go P2, just behind Ocon, and then George Russell pushes us down to P3. And then Hamilton pushes us down to P4. Is that going to be good enough for to get into Q2 as we spin on our next push lap? So that is going to be the end of our Q1 session, yeah? So is that good enough for Q2? It sure is. P6. Where's our teammate though? Jenson Button is not even in the top 14. He's 16th. He's just made it through to Q2. This guy, Jenson Button, is a joke, man. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz out in P19 and P20. That is absolutely massive to see. I don't know what those 2 Ferraris were doing, but they're both out in Q1. And that is huge for the race and just for the championship this season, because, of course, Carlos Sainz, I believe, is P3. Ferrari apparently have the second best car in the grid according to the vehicle chart, and those 2 have just been stinking it up this whole season. I've hardly seen Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz this season, but into this Q2 session, our teammate Jenson Button going faster than us at the moment. We need to improve on that. We're 2 tenths down in the delta in our final lap here. There's only 5 seconds left in this qualifying session, so this will be our last lap. And with nearly 3 tenths down in the delta, can we improve? Coming through the right hand, a bit of understeer, struggling for grip. We are on the intermediate tyres now though. I believe we was in full wet tyres for Q1, wasn't we? And now we're on intermediates. So the track drying up a little bit, things you love to see. I hate driving in the wet. I'm very not good at English either, apparently. I am not good at driving in the wet, as you will see if you've ever watched a race of us in the wet. But yeah, coming through Maggots and Beckett's, like I say, this was our strong point all weekend. Can we smash Maggots and Beckett's and whatever the other corner is? Chapel, is it coming out of it? I don't know, but we do. We smashed it. 2 tenths up in the delta now. Purple sector 2, despite that red sector 1. Is this going to be good enough to put us in the top 10 to get through to Q3? We're currently at P9, Max Verstappen in P8, and our teammate Jenson Button in P7. Are we going to be good enough to get through? There's only one corner left after the chicane. Can we nail the chicane and not lose the rear end on exit? It's very hard to get the power down here because of the way the track changes in elevation. Compromise the exit there to get a good entry. 6 tenths quicker than our previous lap, and it is good enough for P2. So an absolutely fantastic lap there in Q2. Our teammate Jenson Button in P8 getting through as well. Kevin Magnussen in P10 in a Williams. Shout out to Kevin Magnussen. That's a great lap from him to get through to Q3. I think that's the first time Williams have made it to Q3 in our career mode this season. And Max Verstappen there was down in, what, P9 was he? So that's not what Red Bull would like to see. It's what we like to see, though, because of course we're trying to beat Max by 4 points this weekend to overtake him in the championship. Massive oversteer there, which we did catch. We've cost ourselves a bit of time in the delta. Obviously, every time you slide, every time you have oversteer, it's the rear end slide and the tyres aren't gripping the road. You do just lose time every time something like that happens. Same with understeer, just cost yourself some time. But track drying up a little bit. The rain looks like it's calmed down as well. So we're trying to push a little bit harder than we were in the last few laps. You see the rain's calmed down. It still drops on the camera, of course, but it's nowhere near that Q1 session where it was absolutely pelting down. As we get towards Copse, though, it looks a bit heavier. Can we nail Copse? Obviously flat out in the dry, or sometimes flat out in the dry if you get the entry right. Have to take a little lift and downshift through there. Maggots and Beckett's, I've mentioned it already. This is where we make up our time every single lap, on the throttle early, pushing right to that curb on the exit. Maybe kicking up a bit of dirt there as well, getting on the grass before the curb. But where can we put it? Can we put ourselves on provisional pole here in Silverstone? It would be great to see in our home race getting that pole position. Don't think I've ever got pole before in Silverstone. I'm very familiar with the track, but I can just never nail a lap. And this chicane here really costs me every single lap that we do. Can we have a good exit? We actually do get a great exit out of there. And then into the last corner, we just throw it in because the finish line is right there. And it is provisional pole in Silverstone. Let's return to the garage. Do we have time to go again? No, we don't. And it's only good enough for P3 at the end of the session. Lando Norris, a fellow Brit, and George Russell on the front row there. And Lewis Hamilton making up the top 4. 4 Brits on the first 4 grid spots in the British Grand Prix. You love to see it. Jenson Button down in P9. Not what we like to see, but let's get to the race in the sunny, dry conditions in Silverstone. Let's get it.
Once again then to the home of British motorsport and the birthplace of the Formula One World Championship. It's race day here at Silverstone, and it's time for the British Grand Prix. With good opportunities to overtake at the end of the Wellington and Hangar Straights, there's a lot of potential for close action around the 3.6 miles of Silverstone Circuit. With 18 corners and average lap speeds of around 145 miles per hour, it's also one of the longest and quickest circuits on the calendar. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And starting next to them is George Russell. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have the owner driver, Hamilton, Fernando Alonso and Ocon, Perez, Button, Magnussen and Robert Schwartzman, Ticktum, Stroll, Guan Yu Zhou and Latifi. Verstappen, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Vettel, Mick Schumacher and Yuki Tsunoda. Sainz, Leclerc, Albon and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Anthony Davidson also joins me in the commentary box today. Why don't we discuss McLaren? What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Our championship rival, Max Verstappen, starting from P15 after a grid penalty. That is absolutely huge to see. Carlos Sainz in P19, Charles Leclerc in P20. We have a great chance to score some big points here for the Drivers' Championship. We bottle our starting position, though, in the grid, so we're going to start way back in our grid slot, which is unfortunate to see. But can we have a good start off the line? Let's find out, as it is lights out and away we go. Massive wheel spin for George Russell off the line. Lando Norris gets off well in that pole position. We are slow compared to Lewis Hamilton, who comes through, and there's one of the Alpines, or one of the McLarens, sorry, of Esteban Ocon behind us. I saw Ocon and thought Alpine, but he's in a McLaren this season. His teammate Lando Norris still leading the way. Yellow flag as we come through turn 1. There goes Ocon trying to make a move around the outside. Pierre Gasly out of the session, and the virtual safety car is deployed on lap 1 of this race. One of the Ferraris pulls off to the side there and into turn 1. Pierre Gasly losing his front wing and his front left tyre. So Gasly out of the session. Surely that's got to be a full safety car as well, with a car sitting there with 3 wheels. Surely that's got to be a full safety car. The virtual safety car is what's deployed at the moment, which means we have to stick to a tricky delta time. I absolutely hate virtual safety cars. Just to touch on that start though, Esteban Ocon behind us in P5 on soft tyres, so no wonder he had a good start compared to us. VSC comes in though, no full safety car unfortunately. The VSC comes in and we do lose a bit of time to Hamilton, trying to stick to that delta, and here comes Esteban Ocon. He's going to be quick for the first few laps on those soft tyres, definitely going to put some pressure on us, because that McLaren has an absolute rocket in the back of it for an engine. Mercedes have brought some engine upgrades and it's really boosted themselves as a team, and McLaren. But you can see there, Ocon right on our gearbox with those soft tyres. It's not what we like to see. We need to be at the same distance to Hamilton, but Hamilton pulling away a little bit, as is George Russell, his teammate, as they're both going to battle for track position to then try and take on Lando Norris, who seems to be running away with it right now, as we can see him coming down this straight. No DRS, of course, for another lap, because we've just had a safety car, or a virtual safety car I should say. And even speaking about DRS, Hamilton already pulling away that 1 second gap, which you hate to see, because I thought we had good enough pace in qualifying, it felt like, to compete with these guys. But into the race it feels like a different thing. Obviously we've got a lot more fuel on board, we're going to be heavier, the car feels different in a race compared to quali, but really struggling and getting put under pressure by Esteban Ocon behind us. There's that DRS enabled on lap 3. Hamilton has pulled a 1.8 second gap just in the first 3 laps. You hate to see it. But even though we're getting put under pressure by Esteban Ocon behind us, all I'm thinking is that those soft tyres, they're only going to last about 6 or 7 laps around Silverstone. Tyre deg is very high in Silverstone. So to go on the soft tyres, that means he's for sure doing a 2-stop strategy, which is good for us, because it means we're running the 1-stop. Let's see. The 1-stop is definitely the way to go in Silverstone. Very long pit stop, very long pit lane. So you lose a lot of time if you go for a 2-stop. So hopefully we can make the 2-stop work. The 1-stop work, compared to Ocon behind on, what did I say? The 2-stop. Here comes Esteban Ocon though, down into Stowe. I think it's Stowe. I'm going to keep calling it Stowe, so if I'm wrong, I look like an idiot. But Ocon completely does us. I can't lie, I've got to hold my hands up there and say he's completely done me. But we don't have to worry too much, because like I say, he is going to pit in a few laps, but we definitely want to stick with him. Hopefully he can pull us along a bit, pause, and we can get that DRS down the straights. But even coming through the final corner, he's pulling away. The speed of those soft tyres and that McLaren, absolutely crazy to see. Now we've got Fernando Alonso on our gearbox right behind, and Sergio Perez down in P7. He's also on soft tyres, running that 2-stop strategy. Another man we don't really have to care about. Even if we finished here P5, that would be a great result, depending on where Max Verstappen finishes. Big snap of oversteer there as we hit that DRS zone, and we are going to use a lot of battery to try and catch Ocon and stick with him as we head towards the next DRS zone, which is after Maggott and Beckett. Speaking of, here we are. Are we going to be close enough to be able to make a move? Let's see the closing speed of our car in that slipstream. DRS and battery deployed. It's very quick. We're down into Stowe, up the inside of Esteban Ocon. There might have been a better contact there. Ocon turning in. We did send it from way downtown like Steph Curry, but it is what it is. We make that pass on Ocon and get back in front. We didn't really need to make that pass, but I guess we did, because we need to try and put in some laps and chase down the top 3 if we want a podium here in our home Grand Prix. We're 4.3 seconds behind the podium spots, so that's not good. That is not good to see at all. Lap 7, there's roles are reversed. Here comes Esteban Ocon with that DRS wing open. Like I said, lap 7, I was expecting Ocon to pit by now, or maybe pit on this lap. But as we come through wheel-to-wheel racing with Esteban Ocon, he pushes us off the track a little bit, down into a heavy braking zone for the chicane. Can we try and get a good exit and try and push Ocon wide? And there we go. There we do get a good exit round the outside of Esteban Ocon. A lot more grip around the outside there. Ocon, I think, losing a bit of traction as well because he went on the curb. But there we go. Lap 12, he's definitely come into the pits now because he is out of the way. And our teammate, Jenson Button, making a pass on Fernando Alonso up into P5. Well, they're battling for track position there. But lap 12 is where we come into the pits ourselves. Because we'll see in a moment. You can see in the bottom right that orange indication of our tyres. You'll see in a minute when I pull up the MFD. Look at that, 67% wear on the front tyres. That is absolutely crazy to see. Struggling with understeer galore for those last few laps. 67% wear is crazy. I told you the tyre deck in Silverstone is wild. Even 50% on the back tyres, that's enough for oversteer to kick in. And yeah, so very excited to get onto this new set of tyres. Even though it's hard tyres, hard to warm up, we're going to the end. 13 laps on these tyres, or 14 technically, is it? And we're going to come out in P8, it looks like at the minute. Is it going to be P8? Yes, it will be. We come out, need to warm these tyres up. We're going to come out 4.8 seconds, or 5 seconds basically, behind Lewis Hamilton. Can we try and make up 5 seconds? How are we going to do that to Hamilton? We've lost a second since the last time we checked in with our time to Hamilton. We've pit at the same time, so strategy we can't get him on. But as we come through the final corner at the end of our first lap on these hard tyres, still struggling for grip as you see us come around there. The car was very shaky, but we are going to come past, and we are back up into P4. And Lewis Hamilton is actually in P1. Russell and Norris stayed out when me and Hamilton came into the pits. So me and Hamilton obviously went with the undercut, and the undercut has worked perfectly for Hamilton because he's got himself up into P1. Now, we have put in some decent laps here, but Norris and Russell battling for that P2 position. They've cost themselves time by going obviously too wide into certain corners and stuff, trying to attack each other and defend. They're costing themselves time. That 5 second gap has been cut down to 3 seconds. We nail Maggotts and Beckett's there, putting in a purple sector 2. Could this be a fastest lap of the race possibly? Even though we set that red sector 1, we saw it in qualifying. We did get a fastest lap with a red sector. There's Norris and Russell again. We can see them on our screen now. They're going too wide. Them two have been racing wheel to wheel for so long now, and it is the fastest lap of the session. So we take that fastest lap point away from Lando Norris. Coming through turn 1, can we just keep pushing at this pace? If we can set another one of these laps, well, these two are going too wide still. Look at them, they're going too wide still. This is great racing to see from my perspective, looking at these two in front of us. I don't want to be involved in that, but it's great to see. And that 5 second gap is now down to 1.7, 1.6 as we head down this straight. One of them will have DRS, not both of them. We don't have it, but we are nearly in DRS range. They both compromise each other's line. Coming through this corner here, and Russell goes ahead, Norris just behind, but now we are right behind Norris. If we can have a good exit here down to Copse Corner, use a bit of that battery to catch up, which we are going to do. Get in that slipstream. We already know how quick we are through Maggotts and Beckett's. We've set a purple sector 1 in the meantime. Watching those two race in front, we've set a purple sector 1 flying through Copse Corner now. Can we set another purple sector 2? We've put in a gap to Perez behind as well, who had DRS and was actually pressuring us for 1 point. Perez, our championship rival Max Verstappen, up into P6. We understeer a little bit coming out of the final part of Maggotts and Beckett's. I was pushing it a bit too hard, but we still have DRS on Norris. Heading down into Stowe. I really hope this is called Stowe, this corner, because I'd sound like a fool if it's not. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But yeah, we are right there. I don't know where Lewis Hamilton is. We can't see him. There he is off in the distance. Lewis is absolutely flying. He smashed that strategy with the undercut. I thought we might have been able to catch Lewis, but he is way off in the distance. We set another fastest lap. That is what you love to see at 1:30.3. We have some crazy pace in this race towards the end of this hard tyre stint. They really just came into life after a few laps of getting some heat into them, and again we nail Maggotts and Beckett's. A purple sector 1, a red sector 2 though. And here's some information on Russell. Russell pulls off to the side. We try and get a slipstream, and Russell has a problem with his car. He's going to be slow, and George Russell is going to be out of this session, or at least out of the battle for the podium spots, with an engine issue. So George Russell drops behind Perez and Verstappen now. We outbrake ourselves into the chicane to try and catch Lando Norris. But all of a sudden, we went from being in no man's land in P4 to battling for P2 on the podium, possibly P1. We'll have to wait and see. There's 4 laps left in this race. We're chasing down Lando Norris. Can we make this move? We're using our battery. You can see it on the wheel there. It was activated. We had DRS down the straight and into the braking zone. We're going to be ahead of Lando Norris, and we are up into P2. A great move on Lando. Lando is not going to give up easily, though. At the end of lap 24, he's got DRS down the straight. We've been here before with his teammate Esteban Ocon. We go round the outside. Can we make this stick? And Norris punches us in the face as we come through Stowe and down into the braking zone for the chicane. I'm going to get really aggressive here, just park on the apex, so we can't try and get a little switchback or go too wide through the chicane there. But Lando Norris just punched us in the face. You can't do that, Lando, lad. We're in cars and he's just punched me. Crazy to see. But with 2 laps left to go in this race, Hamilton 4.2 seconds ahead. That is why he's the GOAT. He's running away with this race here. But final lap of the race now, struggled with a bit of oversteer there, as you've just seen. 56% wear on the front tyres too. Going to use a lot of battery to try and defend down this straight here. I wanted to save it for the final straight, but here comes Lando. We understeer completely around the outside. It looks like I've pushed him wide there. Didn't even mean it because of the understeer. You can see it again. 56% wear on the tyres, or something like that. George Russell's just set the fastest lap of the race as well and took our points away from us, which is unfortunate to see. But here's Lando's last chance to try and make a move on us. He's going to go round the outside at Stowe. Is he going to be able to make the pass? Round the outside seems to be the place you want to be. But Lando back onto he goes off the track and back onto the track. There's a piece of carbon fibre flying off our car. As we'll see here, it actually looks like our fault from this angle. But that understeer was crazy, and we've lost our front wing end plate. With a few corners to go, it doesn't matter. Can we come across the line ahead of Lando Norris here? The finish line is right around this corner, and we are going to cross the line in P2. What a race that was. We really went from being in no man's land, 8 seconds behind the top 3 podium places, to finish in P2 in our home Grand Prix. You love to see it. Charles Leclerc got driver of the day. Let's find out where the Ferraris and where the Red Bulls finished. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton taking that P1 spot. The guy's an absolute demon around this track. Sorry, I just heard a noise downstairs. Scared me. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton wins this race. As you can see, Lando, even though he punched us in the face, we managed to punch back. Even though we lost our front wing, we punched him back on the last lap. And we crossed the line in front of him. So, you love to see it. What's that, 19 points is it for finishing P2? Wow, it's been a while since I've seen a P2. Did you get 18 or 19? 18 points. I was thinking we had fastest lap still. George Russell ends up finishing P10, so he's still in the points. Let's see. Sergio Perez in P4. Max Verstappen P5. Leclerc came up from P20 to P6, so fair play to him. Carlos Sainz up from P19 to P14. Our teammate Jenson Button started P8, finished P8. Yeah, well done, Jenson, lad. Good race. You know what I mean? Not much to say about him, but we end up 8 points ahead of Max Verstappen. Remember, we only needed 4 points to overtake him, and now we are 4 points ahead. So roles reversed. We are P1 in the driver standings after what, 8 races in this season? That is crazy to say. I did not think I would be saying that. We are 4 points behind Mercedes in the constructor standings, and we are currently P4 in those standings. What is with all these 4s? I do not know. It's the 4th on the calendar as well, as I've just looked at the calendar there. We have a lot of points, nearly 3,000 points here. So we're going to go ahead and get some tyre wear upgrades, and the reason we're going to do that is because we get those upgrades before Belgium, and I will talk about that more in the next episode, why I'm looking at Spa and why I'm looking to try and get upgrades before Spa. But you can see here we go ahead and pick up another tyre wear upgrade, which will come in before Spa, and this will actually put us as the best chassis on the grid. We've already got the best aero package. This will give us the best chassis on the grid if we do get this upgrade come through after the the French Grand Prix, I should say. So, a bit of deliberation there. I don't know why it took so long to press it. But, yeah, I will talk about that more next episode, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. It is a sprint race plus a feature race at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. You don't want to miss that one. I will catch us next time. People, like, comment, share, and subscribe. You know the vibes. Take it easy.